Hello and welcome back to another live episode of Vlogs. Today I'm going to be making some mozzarella. I recently watched Alex French Guy's latest episode where he's asking the community, hey, how do you make good mozzarella? Because he made it. I think he made it successfully, but he didn't make it to his quality standards. And that quality standard is the same as people who've been doing it in Italy for I don't know how long. I mean, uh, they might have been. I don't know how old their company is, but they could have been making cheese for like 1,000 years straight. So it's like their thing. They know how to make mozzarella, and he wants to make mozzarella just as good. Well, I'm going to try to formulate a recipe here today, live in front of you. And I'll give you guys an idea of how I usually formulate recipes, unless it's just something that I remember that I know how to make, or that I already just think I know how to make, and then I end up doing a good job and sometimes a bad job. Anyway, so for this recipe, we're gonna need a wooden stirring utensil. Actually, let me see if I can get a spoon. I prefer rounded front to this. All right, I'm not gonna get a spoon because I don't have any clean ones. So it's this wooden spatula instead. Okay, sorry. In a pot, you'll need a pot. I have a medium-sized pot. Some people think this is a large pot. It's medium to me. It is a 3-quart, 2.8 liters. And I'm choosing, so I have several different types of pots. I'm choosing just a full metal pot with a good heating surface on the bottom to hopefully distribute the heat evenly. You're going to need citric acid. I went and got some Now Real Food brand citric acid. That's because I trust this brand. I know that it's a good brand, and it's all about natural, clean, organic, whatever. I don't know if those words really mean anything with the way they certify things these days, but at least I know that it's more down that direction than the synthetic direction. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go for the old world way of cooking where everything was plain and natural and organic and whatever. They just didn't have all the pesticides and everything that we have today. So let's see here. What else did I get? I got same thing, clean, organic, whatever, green, whatever you want to call it. Organic whole milk and some cream as well. The brand is a Colonna Supernatural. Yep, Colonna Supernatural whole milk and cream. I have 1 quart of cream and about half gallon of milk to use if I need it, and some rennet. I got animal rennet. That's the old-fashioned way of doing it, the old world way of doing it. I don't know if vegetable rennet was really around back then because they took, what's it from? Something, rennet's from a gland or from the guts or something like that. It is what it is. And then I have this, which you wouldn't know it because it's just a bag, but it is 100% pure whey isolate powder. Let me see if I do have the bag. Oh, nope, it's all separated into baggies, so I don't have that anymore. I'm not sure the brand. I will look it up right now because, like I said, I'm going to be formulating this and I'm going to be looking things up anyway. So 100% pure whey isolate. It's not like, it just comes in a big silver bag. You can buy it on like Amazon and stuff. It's not like any of the big name brands. I think you can buy it on Amazon. I can't remember where I got it from. I think I got it from the website that this place actually comes from. Let's checking to see if we're still live here. When I go to the other page, I want to make sure that we're also still live. Okay, anyway, Tearway Isolate Shopping. It's on Google, looking under shopping. It's an excellent brand. I've used it previously when I was not. Is it Isopure? No, that's not it. When I was not chronically injured. I don't think that's it. Same kind of bag. It's like a metallic silver bag. I know it's enthralling to watch this video. I know it's not. I am doing everything live, so give me a break. I want to find the brand for you, the whey protein. So here's what's important. You get 100% pure whey isolate. It does not have anything else in it. This looks familiar. Might be this. Pure whey isolate. It's an unflavored bulk whey isolate. This looks. Oh, I might have found it. Maybe not. Okay, so here's the deal. I can't find it because I bought this a long time ago. You're looking for something that's just whey isolate. Like you look at the ingredients, it says whey protein isolate. This one has sunflower lectin in it. For instant mixing, don't get that. Just the whey isolate. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up several recipes. Okay. So Epicurious says 1 cup of water with 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid in a bowl until dissolved. In a separate bowl, combine 1/4 cup of water with 1/4 teaspoon of liquid rennet. It's so weird. I'm pretty sure you say rennet. I think that's how it's pronounced because I've never used it before. But my mother's name is Renee, and it's just weird saying rennet. Anyway, pour 1 gallon of milk into a large heavy pot. Stir in the citric acid and heat over medium-high heat until 90 degrees on an instant read thermometer. Let me get a thermometer. Oh, please tell me I still have my thermometer. "90 degrees Fahrenheit." Pretty sure I can set my water heater to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So instant read thermometer. Remove the pot from the heat. Stir in the rennet mixture and continue stirring for 30 seconds. Cover, set aside for 5 minutes. Looking like texture after 5 minutes. Cut it down into 1-inch squares. Cook the curd. Set the pot over medium heat. Cook, stirring gently every once in a while to avoid breaking up the curds too much. Until the curd mixture reaches 105 degrees Fahrenheit, remove the pot from the heat and set aside for another 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. Dip a fine mesh sieve in, separate the curds in the whey, clump the curds together, drain off as much whey as possible, discard, reheat the curds. Bring a second large pot of water. Let me get another pot. Another medium-sized pot. Of water to just below boiling, about 185 degrees Fahrenheit. 212 would be boiling. Put the curds in the strainer and lower into the hot water for 2 to 3 minutes. Wearing food-safe rubber gloves, fold the curds several times and then check the internal temperature of the curds. If necessary, return the curds to the hot water in order to reach 135 degrees Fahrenheit. I do not have the rubber gloves. Sprinkle 1 teaspoon of kosher salt over the cheese, working over the pot of hot water. Gently fold the curds over itself, stretching as you fold. The mozzarella gets cool. As you stretch it, return it to the pot of hot water for 10 to 20 seconds, then continue. Shape the mozzarella. Okay. This looks perfectly involved. So salt. What I have here is some sea salt that I have ground into pretty fine powder, or it will be in a second. It was table salt in size. Now it is. Now it's a fine powder. So there's our salt. Second large pot of water to just below boiling. Stretch the mozzarella. Sprinkle 1 teaspoon of kosher salt over the cheese. Work in the pot in hot water. Gently fold the curds over it. So stretch as you fold. The mozzarella gets cool. As you stretch it, return it to the pot of hot water for 10 to 20 seconds. Then continue. Shape the mozzarella. Finish the mozzarella. Shape it by pulling the edges toward the base to form. Okay, I understand what that means. Enjoy. Use it for caprese salad, pasta salad, and more. All right, I like this. This is a good recipe. It is well written. It's not just, you can tell when a recipe is good based upon their quality standards, the way that it's written, if they give you precise instructions, etc. So I'm on cheesemaking.com, New England Cheesemaking Supply Company. They say use 1 gallon of milk, not ultra pasteurized, 1.5 teaspoons. That's kind of why I got this. So beyond organic, pure grazed cows, small Amish Mennonite family farms. Shake well. Iowa, comes from Iowa. Cream top, non-homogenized. Pasture grade cows. Doesn't say. Doesn't say about pasteurization, but it says non-homogenized. 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid, 1 quarter rennet tablet, or 1/4 teaspoon of single strength liquid rennet. Let's see what strength this is. Use 1/2 teaspoon to set 2 gallons of milk in about 30 minutes, or as directed by your recipe. This is from veal. There's some acetate, some propylene glycols, and flavor apparently in here. It's probably just something to counteract the flavor of the rennet. Sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, yeah, preservatives. That's all that's in there. I would have gotten pure rennet. It's just so darn hard to find in this city. Okay, 1 teaspoon of cheese salt. I'm using sea salt. Equipment, good thermometer, knife to cut curds, spoon or ladle to cut curds, large colander, large bowl. Okay. Choosing the right milk. Make sure the milk you use is not ultra pasteurized. You can use homogenized or non-homogenized milk. This is non-homogenized. It's not even homogenized. Farm fresh milk is a great option if you can find it locally. I'm not going to find that too locally. Low-fat milk will work, but the cheese will be drier and less flavorful. You're totally right about that. Okay, do not prepare any other food while you are making cheese. Put all food products away. Move all sponges, cloths, and dirty towels away from your work surface. Wipe your sink and stove with soap and water. Finally, use your antibacterial cleaner to wipe down all surfaces. It's clean anyway, but no. Prepare rennet. Crush 1/4 tablet of rennet and dissolve a 1/4 cup of cool, non-chlorinated water. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of single-strength liquid rennet to the water. Set your rennet mixture aside to use later. 1.5 teaspoons citric acid in 1 cup of cool water. Pour this into your pot. Now pour cold milk into your pot quickly to mix well with the citric acid. This will bring the milk to proper acidity to stretch well later. Heat the milk slowly to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so this is using terminology that the other that Epicurious did not use. Okay, heat the milk slowly to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The other one just said heat to 90 degrees. Add this to cool water. Okay, it tells you it should be cold water. It didn't say that in the other one. Having problems with milk forming a proper curd, you may need to increase the temperature to 95 or even 100 degrees Fahrenheit. At 90 degrees Fahrenheit, remove the pot from the burner. You remove it 90 because it'll continue to heat up from the residual heat that's in the metal. It'll get that extra 5, even 10 degrees on top of that, depending on how fast you heated up the product. Remove the pot from the burner and slowly add your rennet, which you prepared in one step, to the milk. Stir in, stir in a top to bottom motion. Some say bottom to top, so you cut down the side and lift up. Cut down the side and lift up. But they're saying top to bottom. I think they should have said bottom to top. I'm pretty sure about that. No, I'm 100% sure about that. 30 seconds, then stop. Cover the pot and leave undisturbed for 5 minutes. Check the curd after 5 minutes. Should look like custard, clear separation between the curds and the whey. If the curd is too soft or the whey is milky, let it set longer, up to 30 more minutes. Cut the curds into a 1-inch checkerboard pattern. Place the pot back on the stove and heat to 105 degrees Fahrenheit while slowly stirring the curds with your ladle. Same thing. If you will be stretching the curds in a hot water bath rather than using a microwave, heat to 110 degrees Fahrenheit in this step. Wave. Take the pot off the burner and continue stirring slowly for 2 to 5 minutes. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to need to get a coriander with a slotted spoon. I've got one of those too. A wide slotted spoon. I'll use that too. Scoop the curds into a colander or microwave safe bowl. If the curd is too soft at this point, let it sit for another minute or so. Once transferred, press the curd gently with your hand, pouring off as much whey as possible. If desired, you can reserve the whey to use later in baking or as a soup stock. Or a lot of other things. Let me throw that out there. If in a colander, transfer the curds to heat safe bowl, next microwave curd for 1 minute. Notice more whey separation from the curd. Drain off all whey as you did before. Quickly work the cheese with a spoon or your hands until it is cool enough to touch. Rubber gloves will help since the cheese is almost too hot to touch at this point. How hot is this going to get? I do not have rubber gloves. Microwave 2 more times for 35 seconds each and repeat the kneading as in the later step to aid in more whey drain off and ensure even heating of the curds. Drain off all of the whey as you go. It's interesting. Knead and stretch the curd. Now the fun begins. Knead quickly as you would bread dough. Remove the curd from the bowl. Continue kneading until it is smooth and shiny. Return it to the microwave if needed. If it begins to cool before it's ready to stretch, Add salt near the finish. At this point, okay, so this wasn't specific about like how long to knead and when to add the salt, while Epicurious was. At this point, if hot enough, the cheese should be soft and pliable enough to stretch and stretch and stretch some more, like taffy. Just to be clear, taffy's not exactly stretchy. It is elastic, so it does stretch, but it also has resistance from the the sugars crystallizing and joining together. This is what makes it mozzarella. Hope you have fun as we did. Now knead your cheese back into a big ball until it's smooth and shiny. Mozzarella is ready as soon as it's cool enough to eat. To cool, quickly place in a bowl of ice water and refrigerate. When cold, you can wrap it in plastic wrap. It will last for several days, but it is best when eaten fresh. Now, to preserve your mozzarella in the fridge for really just a couple days is all you want to do. But to keep it in the flavor and stuff, what you do is you take a food safe container with a lid, or saran wrap or something over the top. Trust me, you want a lid. And put the whey water back into, or put it into that container, and then put your ball or balls of mozzarella into your container. I'm not reading that, I'm telling you that. So need a couple more things. Storage container. So unorganized. Down here somewhere. Well, for now, let's leave it alone. We're going to need some glass bowls, measuring cup, rennet water, citric acid water, measuring cup. I'm running out of room. Okay. YouTube. Oh, warm. It is very warm. I don't have the AC on, so I just decided not to have the AC on because that's smart. Not smart at all. Let's put our food safe container to be cleaned. All right. Let's put our bowls aside here. And our mixing spoons, our measuring cup. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the project now. If I can speak. So I like this website. It's so similar to Epicurious that I'm guessing that it doesn't matter where I look, I'm going to get super, super similar recipes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my hands thoroughly. You don't want the wrong cultures getting into your milk product. Otherwise, it'll go bad pretty quickly. It may even affect the outcome of your actual mozzarella. If anything, food safe gloves would be a good option for this as well. So this is basically the way I formulate recipes. I go, okay, what do all the expert recipe websites have to say? Or I'll look through some books, some books that I have as well, cookbooks, and I make a determination. Well, here's what's in common. Everybody puts paprika into. Let's say not everybody puts paprika onto deviled eggs. And then I say, okay, but half of the people did, and would I like that? Yes, okay, then I'm going to use it. No, okay, I'm not going to use paprika. You know, half the people made their own mayo because they said it was worth it. Well, then I'm going to try two recipes. I'm going to try one with mayo, and then the other one with mayo that I made, or whatever. You know, and I use some basic analysis skills to determine how I'm gonna make the food, and then I do it a couple times, a couple different ways until I come up with the exact recipe that I like. So that is that. That is basically how I come up with my recipes. If you guys watch this and you're like, oh, it's because he used to be a chef and he's good at cooking just naturally or something. I don't. But none of that's really all that relevant. I'm good at this because I take my time and I find out what tastes good and what doesn't. Not just to me, but I serve guests. I serve my friends. I serve my wife, my neighbors. But they think all my food's amazing. So, all right. So, number 1, prepare the work area. Check. Number 2, prepare the rennet. Crush. Okay, so we're gonna do. I have to determine how much rennet I'm using based upon how much product I'm using. So I'm going to use. I have a half a gallon. I'm going to use 4 cups of milk, 1 cup of whole whipping cream. I'm going to up that fat content. And a couple tablespoons of, a couple tablespoons of whey isolate. So this says half a teaspoon to set 2 gallons. That's a lot. How many cups of water are in a gallon? How many cups of water, typing with one hand, in a gallon? 16. That's a common thing that a lot of people know, but I don't have memorized. So for every 32 cups, I'd use a half a teaspoon of rennet, right? Well, I'm only going to use 4 cups, right? So we're looking at that's 8 times as much as this. So 1/8 of a half of a teaspoon. So a 16th of a teaspoon is what I will be using for 4 cups. Math. I hate it. I hate it all. Let's see if I have a 16th. I don't think I do. Oh, an eighth. Yep. I have an eighth of a teaspoon. So I'm using half of this of rennet. Okay. Cool, non-chlorinated water. And good luck with the non-chlorinated water. I don't have any bottled water, and we're getting water from tap. Or add a 1/4 teaspoon single strength liquid rennet to the water. Set your rennet mixture aside to use later. So here's what I'm going to do. It says to use, according to the rennet mixture, it says to use a 16th of a teaspoon for every 4 cups of milk. Now I'm doing 4 cups plus 1 cup of cream, but I wanted to figure it out for 4 cups because I knew that was going to be an amount that was divisible into the original 2 gallons worth of the measurement for the rennet. Anyway, I'm going to double that. Why? Because to a certain degree, you can't have too much rennet. It's a thickening agent, right? And that's what I'm trying to do is thicken the mozzarella. If I over thicken the curds, then all I have to do is go through extra heating and massaging cycles to get it into the mozzarella form that I want. So I'm going to use a whole 1/8 of a teaspoon rather than a 16th of a teaspoon's worth of rennet. 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. Okay, I will get it from the fridge just in case. Okay, 1/4 cup. There you go. 1/4 cup of water. Yes, this is for gravy, I know. Okay. And my 1/8 of a teaspoon of rennet. Make sure I can seal on this. Yep, there is. Trying to be cautious not to get my now. I was trying to be cautious not to get my fingers like in the rennet because I don't want any bacteria getting in here. But since the seal on it was this weird paper foam stuff, kind of came apart in pieces. All right. So I'm going to count this in drops into the 1/8 of a teaspoon measure, so that way I know later how many drops I need. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, it's 10 drops. Well, 11 because that first drop came out as it was big. It was more like a little squirt. So about 10 or 11 drops of rennet. We'll then mix that around in the water. All right, good to go for our rennet water. And set it aside. Here's the thing. I'm very, very familiar with temperatures in liquid, on the side of a pot, on the side of a cup. I'm just really familiar with feeling that with my hands. I'm not super worried about the temperatures that I'm heating this up to. Yes, use a thermometer, please. I know it's not scientific enough if I don't use a thermometer. I'm going to try and get close to the quality standard that I'm looking for mozzarella. And that being said, I've had buffalo mozzarella both from the United States and from Italy, imported from Italy rather. And I have had lots of different cow's milk mozzarellas. Different brands make it taste differently. I like it to be fatty and creamy and quite wet, technically, not super chewy, not dry, if you will. And that's the quality standard that I'm looking for, that plus the right flavor compounds. So I'm not going to be super scientific about the heating method, but I will at least share with you about how much, which ingredients and how much of each ingredient I'm using. So we have our rennet water mixture done. Next, so it's mix the citric acid and the milk. Add 1.5, well, wait a second. One second. Add 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid to 1 cup of cool water. All right, 1 cup of cool water coming right up. Chemistry class, the bottom of the bubble. We've got 1 cup of cool water. Then pour that into a bowl here. Whoop. Maybe a little splash overboard. Okay, good to go there. And then pour this into your pot. 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. Okay, so let me read this really quick now. Useful in canning, freeze-dried foods, used to preserve vitamin C content, spoilage, prevent discoloration, use 1 teaspoon per quart of water in vegetable juices. If you're into sprouting, I'm not using it for sprouting, although it is great for that. Nothing on making cheese. Give me 1 sec. I want to look into, well, hold on. How much milk was it saying to use on this recipe? 1 gallon of milk. Interesting. They're going really lean with the citric acid and everything else. So this is for 1 gallon. They say 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. Here's the thing. The strength of your citric acid is not the strength of my citric acid, unless you're getting this exact brand. So rennet and citric acid, each one's going to have a different strength. Your milk is going to have a different fat content. It's going to have a different protein content. But they're going to be similar. So What I'm going to use for this is 1 teaspoon of citric acid. I think based upon the other recipes, and I did look at other recipes earlier, by the way. Um, Based on all the recipes I saw, this is a pretty reasonable amount. It's not going to make it highly acidic. Okay, 1 teaspoon of citric acid into the water. Use our teaspoon to go ahead and stir that. Now it's gonna look a little cloudy. It's gonna look like salt in water, not quite like sugar. Because sugar, well, not like white table sugar or baking sugar, because that would dissolve a lot faster. It's gonna dissolve about as fast as a teaspoon of salt might. There we go. And by the way, the reason it says to add the salt near the end, I don't know. I don't know, but both recipes said that. And the recipes I looked at earlier said that. Okay, dissolved. But I'm going to be adding the salt near the end for one reason that I know about in cooking, which is that when you add salt at the beginning, it starts to denature the salt, and the salt will draw the water out of things, and it changes. It'll change. So saline can the salt and saline can attach to other molecules, and that will like nitrogen and things, and that will cause different chemical compounds and different flavors and all kinds of things in your food. So we're just going to add the salt near the end so that we can use less of it. So we always want to use less salt in our cooking and to get the same flavor that we would by adding a bunch of salt at the beginning. So I'll set this aside now. Okay, we have our rennet and our citric acid waters set aside. Now pour the cold milk into your pot quickly to mix well with the citric acid. This will bring the milk to the proper acidity to stretch well later. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll get that back. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put our milk and our cream into here. All right. 4 cups of the milk. Oh, I should have shaken that. It's non-homogenized, which means it's got cream on the top. So give that a good shake. And we're gonna, you know what? Just make sure that cream's broken. Yep. Ooh, that's tasty. We'll go ahead and put about a cup. I'm not measuring this exactly, but I do know about how much a cup is. Here, that's about it. All right. And then our whey protein isolate. Let's see here. Paper towel. I forgot how much I said I was going to add of the whey protein isolate. But looking at the consistency and smelling this and knowing the flavor compounds, I think this is pretty high in whey. I'm not super worried about the whey content. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it alone because this milk is really high quality. So it should have a lot of protein in it. It's also pasture raised, and I know pasture raised cows have more protein. All right, so what I'm going to do now, let me go back to YouTube. Okay, and I will show you guys. I'm going to add the acidic water and the cream at the same time. Okay. And this way, it's mixing fairly evenly. Oh, that half of the milk was. Go. There. Now that should be fairly acidic. Go ahead and give it a little stir to make sure it's well incorporated. So now we have an acidic, creamy milk. High protein content, whey protein specifically, and a high fat content. Very high. More like buffalo milk fat content, even though it's not buffalo milk. Just to be clear, when I say buffalo, I mean water buffalo, because in the US, people oftentimes call bison buffalo, but those are two entirely different things, by the way. I'm going to wipe off the spoon. This is really like a 20-minute process, but obviously, I mean, I'm up to 40 minutes and 48 seconds because I'm explaining everything. I'm trying to go into detail of why I'm choosing what I'm doing, how I'm going about that. So there's our milk mixture. Oh, okay. Next. Okay, now pour the cold milk into your pot quickly. Mix well into the citric acid. This will bring the milk to the proper acidity to stretch well later. Now heat the milk to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to do this slowly. So go ahead and turn that on. Now, I'm going to start with a very low heat. I'm going to say that that's just below medium low. Okay, so not all the way low. It does have to heat the whole thing up. I have a nice thick piece of metal on the bottom of this pot, so it should heat up fairly quickly and distribute the heat fairly evenly. Got some bolognese here, ragu. I think ragu would be more appropriate to call that. There's no carrot in it, no celery. All right. Heat the milk to 90 degrees. As you approach 90 degrees, you may notice your milk beginning to curdle slightly due to the acidity and the temperature. As a matter of fact, I saw tiny, tiny bits of curdling just from the acidity. And you can tell by looking at this spoon. Let me see if you can see what I can see. See that? That is, yep, that's a very slight amount of curdling. Wanted to taste it to see if it was just fat. If it was just butter fat, then that would mean that it's just the cool fat that's separated from the rest of the milk product while it was cold, but it's not. It is a very light amount of curdling. So as we approach 90 degrees, you may notice a little bit of curdling. If you're having problems with milk forming a proper curd, you may need to increase the temperature to 95 or even 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Add the rennet. At 90 degrees Fahrenheit, remove the pot from the burner. I'm going to remove it. I'm just going to turn the heat off. And slowly add your rennet, which you prepared in step 1, to the milk. That's the rennet in the water. Stir in a top to bottom motion. Now, let me show you what that looks like. That was the thing that I was like, oh, I don't know about the top to bottom part. So they're saying top to bottom. Okay, yeah, this way you can see. Top to bottom? No. Go cut in and go from bottom to top. The point is that you're circulating the top of the mixture into the bottom or vice versa. Okay, and the reason that you want to do that is because the rennet will try to curdle from the top down. I forget why. It might have something to do with the oxygenation or something from the top of the pot. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But I know that the point is to get the milk on the top to mix with the milk on the bottom. Okay. And we are going to stir this occasionally, trying to get it to heat up evenly. I don't want any... Well, we're not going to burn on the bottom or the sides because we've got a low heat, but... And then, once again, I'm used to temperatures, by testing temperatures by hand. I don't cook my meat with a thermometer. I don't need to. I understand what it looks like, what it smells like, what it feels like. I have tricks to be able to cook my meat that way and to be able to feel things and know how they feel. Use a thermometer. Also, it's best not to put your hands into something where um, different bacteria and things can affect the mixture, but that's what I'm going to do. It's pretty much room temperature right now. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so back to stirring in from a top to bottom motion. So approximately 30 seconds, stop, cover the pot, leave undisturbed for 5 minutes. Check the curd after 5 minutes. Should look like custard all the way through. And at the bottom, you'll have, so it'll float on top, but it'll be most of the way through. And on the bottom, you'll have a yellowy water liquid. It shouldn't be creamy, very creamy. It should be kind of see-through. Opaque, really, but not creamy, not white. So it says cut the curds into a 1-inch checkerboard pattern. That is important. Let me say that the curds are going to break apart more afterwards. So if you feel like you cut it up too much and you're like, oh no, I cut it up too much, don't worry about that. Now, Alex, French guy cooking Alex, made a tool, which was really cool. It looked like a piece of maybe bamboo or, I don't know, piece of wood, like a stick, that he marked off every 1 inch with like a permanent marker. And at the bottom, he had a piece of wire that was the diameter of his pot, and each radius of the pot stuck out from either side. So I put a hole in the center of the bottom of the stick, and then put a wire through there. So he could go down 1 inch, turn it around, go down 1 inch, turn it around, etc. Oh, my curd and whey is totally separating. Wow, the water is certainly separating out of it. It's not really curdling. Really, once the butter fat melts, I'm guessing it's going to be around 90 degrees. It's warm now. The flavor has changed. It's kind of citrusy, which is kind of upsetting because I was hoping my citric acid would not be. Hold on. Whoa, excuse me. Don't worry, I sneezed away from the food. I was hoping that the citric acid wouldn't be lemony, otherwise I'd just use lemon, but oh well. Oh, 1 inch checkerboard pattern. Now, my idea to cut it into 1 inch checkerboards is to go in at an angle. Okay, so if I cut it 1 inch away from the side of the, let me see what you see. If I cut it 1 inch away from the side, going in at an angle, and I make a slice, then I pull it 1 inch back, put it in, make a slice, pull it 1 inch back, put it in, make a slice. And I do that all the way across. And then I go at the opposite angle and I do the same thing. And if I do that 3 or 4 ways, then I'll get about 1 inch cubes. If you go at an angle and another angle and another, you'll create those cubes, but they'll be diamonds instead of cubes. They're the same difference. So no fancy tools, going in at an angle, you'll get your cubed curds. Give this another stir. I can see the water and the curd separating here for sure. See here. Okay. I think we're up to good 75. No, that's warmer than that. A good 80, between 80 and 84 degrees. Now, one of the tricks I'm using to determine the temperature of the water is by heating up my room. So I don't have the AC on, and it is good. Let's see, what temperature is it outside? It is 86 degrees outside. It's 86 degrees outside. Now, how water feels on the skin, 90-degree water on the skin is different than 90-degree temperature in the room. But the closer they are to each other, the more you can tell, basically. Okay, we're getting there. Giving it just a tiny bit more heat because it can take it. And a little stir. This curdling effect that's happening now, I want it to be even, I guess. So an even curdle. What the rennet does is it helps the coagulation of the curdling. So it's going to curdle on its own with the acid in the milk. But the rennet's going to allow it to stick together. So you say, well, how do they figure out how to use rennet? Well, someone put milk into a pouch, like a bladder, like a literal bladder. That's where rennet comes from an animal that they were drinking out of, 1,000 years ago or whatever. And yeah, it was an acidic environment, bacteria culture, in the fresh, non-homogenized milk, and everything came together and did exactly what we're doing here. It's probably how they figured out, like ricotta. Mozzarella was a whole other thing. I don't know how they got to that because you have to stretch it and stuff with the heat. That's how the fable goes, anyway. I think I want to do this microwaving thing. Yeah. Cut the curds in a 1-inch checkerboard pattern. Place the pot back on the stove and heat to 105 degrees Fahrenheit while slowly stirring the curds with your ladle. You'll be stretching the curds in a hot water bath rather than using microwave heat temperature to 110 degrees instead. Take the pot off the burner. Continue stirring slowly for 2 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna get a cutting board. That's what I'm gonna do. Not that one. That's too small. Cutting board. Okay. It's a little too hot, but it'll be okay. We're gonna add the rennet and stir for about 30 seconds, I think is what it said. We go back up. That's what I get for not paying attention. At 90 degrees Fahrenheit, remove the pot from the burner. I turn the burner off and slowly add your rennet, which you prepared in step 1 to the milk. Okay, while stirring. Slowly adding, stirring. Stir in a top to bottom motion. Whoop. For about 30 seconds. And then stop. On top, top, bottom. Just get the bottom mixed with the top. And notice I'm being kind of gentle with it. All right, from between 5 and 30 minutes, we're gonna let this sit. I can see it forming. You can definitely see it forming. Get some butter fat on the top. It smells fatty. It kind of smells a little cheesy, honestly. I can see the curdling effect going on too. Cool. I'm excited. It says to let it sit covered. I don't know. Let's do that. Does this fit? No. Covered. 56 minutes about. Check on this in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Got the curds into a 1-inch checkerboard pattern. Place the pot back on the stove, heat to 105 or 110. Take the pot off the burner, continue stirring slowly for about 2 to 5 minutes. And we'll make a firmer cheese. Scoop them in the corner. So yeah, but really the next thing we're gonna do is after this sits for a little while, we're gonna cut it into the cubes. We're gonna remove it with, we're gonna heat it up a little bit again. Stir it every once in a while, very gently, not trying to break up those curds. And then once again, very gently remove and put into the strainer. And then press it, gently press it, trying to remove additional whey. Drain off all whey as you did before. Quickly work the cheese with a spoon or your hands until it's cool enough to touch. Microwave. What we're doing next is when we remove it and put it into the strainer or the colander, we're cleaning it off, filtering it. If you watch my video on making butter, it's really simple. Put some cream in a mixer, turn it on high speed, make sure you have something covering it so it doesn't go everywhere, and watch it turn into butter magically. You get your buttermilk and then your butter. And then what you do to kind of filter that butter a little bit more is add some very cold water to it and then keep stirring on high. Just make it mix. 3 minutes to go. And then you're going to add cold water a couple times. And what it's doing is it's removing that whey. It's the same thing here. Whey, as the French say. Whey. We. All right. Bad joke. That is a dad joke right there. It's not even a dad, unless you count my fur ball over there. Yeah, so we're gonna be filtering it, but we have to do it hot with the mozzarella. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the other pot, we'll set our whey aside, and we'll put this into boiling water in that other pot. So I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna get some water boiling in the other pot. Let's hear my beagle. All right, 4 cups of water in there. I'm gonna go ahead and get that boiling. Well, we're not gonna use boiling water, but nearly boiling water. This is not doing what it said it would do. Oh, maybe it is. Okay, leave it alone. Leave it alone, Todd. It says 25 more seconds for this. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not ready to go. And here's what I'm going to do to fix that. I'm going to add another 10 drops of rennet because it's simply not creating the curd on top. I'm not letting this sit for 30 minutes. That's just not right. I know that it should only take like 5 minutes. I am not afraid to fail in front of you. If this doesn't work out, I will come back and I will get this right. Alex, I noticed that you were adding, what's it called? Milk powder to increase the whey amount in your mixture. However, that's just not necessary. I don't think. So I understand that the whey and fat content of the milk that they were using in Italy is higher. You said, okay, well, I'm going to raise the whey and the fat content. Well, the whey in their milk is going away. The whole point is that we're rinsing it out. We're separating it from the fats. So there's that. I don't think you have to add additional whey to your milk product. Just thought I'd say that. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Woo! So, can I pause the stream? I swear that there was the ability to pause the stream. I swear I remember having that ability. But maybe not. Emoticons, end stream? Not yet. Oh, you're touching everything after I clean my hands. Or with 3 more minutes to go from when I added the extra rennet. Does it matter that it's covered? I don't think it does. Why am I covering it? Why does it say to cover it? You guys know, and leave a comment. Our water over here, yeah, that's hot, is not boiling but hot. Probably about 100 and let's see here, what's going to burn beyond 120 degrees If I leave my finger in there, it'll burn me. Probably about 150 degrees. Probably about 160. Just it looks like it's kind of forming properly now. I'm gonna leave it alone. It's gonna take more than 5 minutes, I'll tell you that much. I don't know why it's only taking them 5 minutes in the recipe that I'm getting online, but supposedly it is. It smells very cheesy now. Maybe the rennet changes that. Not picking my nose. Got an itch, literally. You can see. Okay. What's next? I cut this next. Yeah, it does seem to be thickening a lot better now. So I used a 1/4 teaspoon worth of this rennet. Brand is Cultures for Health. Animal rennet for cheese making. Cultures for Health. Best used by, okay, good. October. We're getting thicker. I'm kind of wondering if I even heated this enough. Hold on. I don't know where I left my cell phone. There's another wonderful Italian recipe. You guys can check this out on my YouTube channel here. It's limoncello. Another very acidic thing. Delicious. I don't want to spill limoncello all over the place with this wide mouth jar. It's really an after dinner drink. Or an after meal drink. In Italy, I believe they usually have limoncello after a meal. Super easy if you guys want to try it. Ooh. Yeah, it's a really high alcohol content. Woo! Okay. Just checking our curd really quick. There's a lot of liquid underneath here. I feel like my curd is just not even close to strong enough. Like I should be using cream to make this or something. Yeah, we've got 3 more minutes until the second amount of rennet that I added has been in here for 10 minutes total. In our hot water bath over here. It's just sitting. It needs more water, honestly. Yeah. Cheers. 2 more minutes until the second adage of rennet has been here for 10 minutes total. And while it's thickened, it's still creamy underneath, and it's not really thick enough on top. That doesn't help. 30 seconds until the second adage of rennet has been in here for 10 minutes total. So okay, it's been about 10 minutes since I added the rennet, or since I added, let's see here, it has been 15 minutes since I added the rennet. It has been 10 minutes since I added the second amount of rennet because I could tell that it was not enough. This was just not thickening enough. Just to wait up to 30 minutes, but I'll tell you right now, this is not a custard like top going on here. So I wonder, was it acidic enough? It's thicker, but there's not any flavor either. Three more minutes. Smells good. Doesn't taste amazing, honestly. It's really wet. It's thicker. It's still getting thicker, but it's not custard-like on top, that's for sure. And it's honestly pretty depressing how bad this looks. I've made ricotta before. They're not a lot thicker than this, that's for sure. Mozzarella, curd, not forming. All right. Let me get a chair. of the most commonly asked questions that I get from people, see here, cheese making, gourmet cheese, simple and easy. Cheesemaking.com. One of the most commonly asked questions that I get from people is just starting out. Sorry. That I get from people just starting out making cheeses. I had a problem with my milk. It took ages to set, or in some cases, it didn't set at all. What went wrong? Setting or coagulating the milk is one of the most important aspects of making good cheese, of course, because it has to get thick, right? So, when it does not behave according to plan, it can cause some serious problems for cheesemakers. Milk sets into a curd when the rennet is added to the cultured warm milk. Okay, technically, when you add the acid, it curdles. So I wouldn't say that it's when you add the rennet. But okay, that's okay. Let's keep going. The set transforms the milk gradually from a liquid into a solid. The aim is to get a firm set before going on to the next step, which is to cut the cheese curd. Cheese making can be really easy when you get a good set in the time indicated in the recipe. On the odd occasion, the milk does not set as well as the cheesemaker would have liked. Improper English here, sorry. Would have liked they needed to adjust the times. Okay. Would have liked. It's not written right. They needed to adjust the times in the recipe, but also understand what happened. There are two ways to set milk. One is with acid. That's what I said. And examples of acid set cheeses are Parisian feta, fresh lactic quark, queso blanco, and ricotta. There is not usually a problem setting these styles of cheeses. The second way to set milk is to add rennet to the warm milk, and that is what this article refers to. What is happening when the rennet forms a curd? When rennet is added to the milk, it needs to be stirred in very well. The milk is then left undisturbed for a short period of time. That varies depending on the recipe. During this time, the milk gradually turns from a liquid into a solid. Throughout this coagulation process, the rennet splits off the casein from other proteins to allow the casein to form a fibrous structure, referred to as a gel or a set or a sponge. This gel now contains all of the fat, water, casein, whey proteins, calcium, starter cultures, and the rennet itself. Not all of the water, not even close. What should the cheesemaker be looking at if the milk is not setting well or has not set at all? Has the rennet been added and mixed into the milk correctly? Well, most recipes call for rennet to be diluted in 20 times cooled boiled water. Might have been the chlorine. The aim is to get good dispersion of the rennet into the milk. It's a good idea when you have 500 or 5,000 liters of milk. If using diluted water, make sure the water is boiled and then cooled, and do not use a chemical sanitizer in any part of the process. Okay, so here's what I think happened. The city water has tons of chlorine in it. I already know that. It's Omaha. That's what they do. So I use city water. It went through the filter in the fridge, but that doesn't necessarily remove chlorine. You can let water sit out for like an hour or something, and it will evaporate at room temperature. And then you'd have to cool it again because the rennet is supposed to be added to cool water. Otherwise, it thickens. Should probably put this in the fridge. So I think that's what happened here. Using bottled water that has nothing in it, because bottled water comes with all kinds of stuff in it, even though it says it's just water on the package. Look at the ingredients on the back. Sodium benzoate, other things. Usually byproducts of other chemical processes are added into the foods and water and the liquids that we eat and drink every day. Okay, anyway. But if you only have 5 or 10 liters of milk, it is usually okay to add the rennet straight into the milk. So we did both. We diluted it, and then we added it directly as well. What is important is that the milk is being stirred before the rennet is added. Did that. And then the rennet has, I think, and then the rennet has been well mixed into the milk over a 2-minute period using both an up and down and a cross stirring motion. This says 2 minutes. The other one said 30 seconds. Excessive stirring, agitation, frothing, and moving of the milk should be avoided. Well, what's excessive? This says 2 minutes, the other says 30 seconds. That's a big difference. It really is. When the 2 minutes is up, use the stirrer to stop the milk from moving. I don't see why that's important. It will stop on its own. And then let the milk stand completely still while the setting takes place. Okay, I moved it around a little bit, but I didn't like shake it vigorously or anything. I just kind of checked to see if it was thickening. All right, volume of rennet added. Only add the required amount of rennet according to the recipe. I might have added some more. The recipe should also give a time period for when the set should be achieved. Yeah, but we don't, there's too many factors. If the particular milk you got and the particular citric acid and the particular rennet and everything that you got was different from the one that the recipe, the person who made the recipe usually uses, then your results are going to be different. The recipe should also give a time period, blah, blah, blah. If the milk looks like it's not setting, do not move the milk container and do not add any additional rennet, which is what I did. Adding additional rennet and stirring it in will negate any setting of the curd that has already taken place. How is that? It doesn't say why. I need a reason for that because it does not make sense that it would negate it. It should just do more, but whatever. In the next batch of cheese that you make, you may consider adding a small amount of additional rennet to make up for the slow set. Do note that any additional rennet may also produce brittle curds and then weak and pasty bodies and off flavors in the matured cheese. The matured cheese is like an aged cheese. We're not aging the cheese. But that being said, it still might affect the flavor compounds. The required amount of rennet should be accurately measured in a clean plastic syringe or a small graduated measuring cylinder and stirred into the milk very well. Okay, well, we're not a professional cheese making thing, so I have as sterilized as possible plastic, glass, and metal containers. Check your measuring is correct. Check that your measuring is correct. I come across cheesemakers that add 1 milliliter when they should have added 10 milliliters. Chemicals will activate your rennet. Always sanitize the syringes with clean boiling water. Never use a chemical to sanitize rennet containers or syringes. Quality, strength, and measuring out of the rennet. This is probably the most common problem that cheesemakers face. Liquid rennet usually will have a 12-month use-by date. We had one that's still good. After the expiration date, their ability to set the curd diminishes. Do not overstock your rennet and always throw out rennet when its use-by date is reached. The rennet should be stored in the fridge, not the freezer. Check the strength of your rennet. Rennets come in different strengths. This one honestly doesn't say. It just says you could make cheese with this. 1 milliliter at 200 IMCU strength. Oh, don't know what that stands for. Is the same as using 2 milliliters of 100 IMCU strength rennet. Temperature of the milk. Rennet acts best at temperatures between, it doesn't say between 40 degrees Celsius and 43 degrees Celsius, but it will also work satisfactory, but slower at a temperature between 30 and 32 degrees Celsius. All right, hold on. Let's see that lower temperature, 30 degrees Celsius. Nope, definitely not what I was trying to spell. Celsius is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. It said to warm it to 90. That means that 2 milks with the same amount of rennet added but at different temperatures, The milk that is closest to 40 to 43 degrees will set faster than the milk that is held at 30 to 32 degrees. Some recipes use lower temperatures for setting the milk because the lower temperature is most suitable for starter growth, which is not necessary for this because it's a fresh cheese. It's not something that's going to be mesophile. Yes, it's not going to be aged. Acidity of the milk. The action of rennet in milk is greatly accelerated by a small increase in the acidity of the milk. The ripening of milk, which is the time between the addition of the starter and the addition of the rennet. Milk with a longer ripening time will set faster than the same milk with a reduced ripening time. Also, two identical milks at exactly the same temperature, if one has an increased volume of starter culture, then it will also set faster. Okay, so here's the deal. Let's look at this really quick. It's still setting. It's not going bad. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think. It is still setting. So here's what I want to do. Ooh, you lit my face on fire. I want to warm this back up. It's not warm enough to continue setting properly. So I'm turning it on a medium-low heat. Low, medium, low. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna turn the heat up on this sucker. I'm gonna try and get this to work right, because it is taking forever, despite what the recipe said. All right. Milk quality. Milk from sick cows, cows in late lactation, and mastitis infected cows may cause a weak set to occur. Well, we don't know, do we? We just don't know if they're infected. I sure hope they're not. That being said, milk from sick cows. Yeah, I guess that could affect the quality of the milk and therefore quality of our cheese. I don't think that's a problem here. The components of milk, including in the casein, calcium, and phosphorus, can become imbalanced and can impair the rennet action. Soluble calcium available in the milk. Coagulation will not occur in the absence of soluble calcium. So if we add soluble calcium, soluble. Yep, totally forgot what soluble means. Hold on. Solubility. I think I know that. Solubility is a property of a solid, liquid, or gaseous chemical substance called solute to dissolve in a solid. Okay, that's what I thought. It's how quickly it dissolves into liquid. Okay. I'm sure there's a ton of calcium in there. That being said, we could increase the amount of how thick the curd is by adding soluble calcium to this. That doesn't mean taking calcium supplement pills and grinding them up and adding it to this. Let's just make that very clear. We may be able to get soluble calcium, like I bought this citric acid. Might be able to find that. Coagulation will not occur in the absence of soluble calcium. Milk may contain a shortage of this calcium, and this will lead to a self-leaking curd. The addition of calcium chloride to the milk may rectify this. There we go, calcium chloride. Woo! I'm thinking calcium chloride would really change what I've got going on here. It's still not really thickening. Sad day. Okay. If adding additional calcium, make sure that you do this at least 1 hour before the addition of rennet, or the effect of the additional calcium may be minimized. It's to make sure that it completely dissolves into the water on a molecular level, probably. Heating of milk. Excessive heating of milk precipitates the soluble calcium and reduces the setting availability or ability for the milk. For home pasteurization, it is important not to over-pasteurize the milk. Milks available commercially are usually pasteurized for general use and not specifically for cheese making. As a result, extra heat treatment may be applied to increase the shelf life of milk. If the cheesemaker does not know what heat treatment is applied, as in most cases, the addition of calcium is important. Well, it says non-homogenized. It doesn't say anything about pasteurization. I assume if it doesn't say that it's pasteurized, if it's pasteurized, I think that has to be on the label. I'm really guessing that. I'm just guessing. Probably doesn't have to say how it's pasteurized, but if it is pasteurized, it probably has to say so on the label. That being said, I don't think that what I got is pasteurized. So it shouldn't be a problem. Aged milk. Milk that is several days old will not set as well as fresh milk. This is due to the effect of spoilage enzymes degrading the proteins and solubilization of calcium. In addition, these unwanted bacteria may also produce some mild off flavors in the milk, such as bitterness. It's not bitter. What should you do if the curd has not set? If you can see that the milk is beginning to set but is still not set sufficiently enough to cut, then you have no option but to wait until the curd has properly set. If you end up cutting the curd too early, you may end up breaking it during the stirring stage, or the curds may not drain sufficiently in the hooping stage. That's the next thing I was going to do. And you may have an over-moist and over-acidic cheese. If you delay the cutting due to a soft set, you also have to bear in mind that the starter culture will still be producing acidity during that time. The answer is to shorten the subsequent stages of the recipe from cut to hoop so that you add the curd to the hoop as near as possible to the time indicated on the recipe. An example may be camembert that has 2 stirs 20 minutes apart. Make each of those stirs 10 minutes apart, and that gains you 20 minutes. If the milk does not set at all, you have no choice but to end the cheese making. Don't throw the milk out, though. It will make a great milk ricotta. And you still strain it, and you get ricotta out of it. Okay. Interesting. I started to heat it a little bit, and I see water separating from the curd. So I'm going to mess with this because it's not working right. I know that. It is mostly water. So here's the deal. This didn't work. I know it's not going to work. I'm looking at it right now. There's something wrong with this. I'm going to try and strain it and see what I get. Ooh. Because if I analyze what happened, I may be able to fix the issue with the next one. So yeah, there's some setting here, but it's not a curd. Like, it's not even ricotta. I mean, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's milk again after I did that. Here's the curd. Ready? That's it. It's slightly thick, milky substance. What a waste. What a big waste. All right, we're going to taste this. It's sour. Whew. Very sour. So, recipe number 1, not a success. Here's the deal. My thermometer is missing. I want to do this with a thermometer and get back to you guys. It's okay to fail. I really don't mind. Alex, French guy, I'm going to continue to try this so that I can try to help you. I don't know what is wrong with this, but it is absolutely wrong, that's for sure. Pretty sure I got my temperatures right. I sure did add a lot of citric acid, technically. But not compared to Alex. Could be that my rennet's no good. And I'm using animal rennet, not vegetable rennet. We do have the option of vegetable rennet, although I don't want to drive all the way across the city to get it again. There shouldn't be anything wrong at all with my creams. Let me see fat percentage. Saturated fat, 23%. Total fat, 10%. Total fat, 7%. Saturated fat, 18%. Oh, that's per serving. Funny. This is a huge fat percentage. This, however, 8 grams, 4.5 grams per cup. How many milliliters is in a cup? $236 milliliters per cup. Let's call it 237 because it's above 50%. So 237 milliliters per cup. Milliliters and grams are about the same in weight for water. For dry systems. What do we got here? Oh, I have it there. 240. Okay. This whole milk is only 3.33% fat. The fat percentage of the Italian milk in Alex French Guy's cooking is like 8%. I think I found our answer. This milk has like no fat in it. So this is like 30%. This is too much. But we have doing some math here, guys. Doing some math. What did I say? 3.33. Mm, 15, 30. Okay. Did some math. If I do 1/3 the whipping cream and 2/3, so 1 part whipping cream to 2 parts whole milk, then I'll have the right fat percentage. Yeah. I already know the calcium content's good. We're going to go ahead and add much less citric acid. It was like lemony, kind of sour flavor there. And I'm going to go ahead and look at Alex French Guy's mozzarella series so that I can compare and contrast what I'm doing here and what he's doing to try and get the the right the right quantities of what I'm trying to achieve here. I will get another moped. I have a moped out there. I'll get another thermometer is the word that I'm looking for. And I'll get back to you guys. Have a wonderful day. It's okay to fail. This is how we learn. As long as we learn from it, it's okay to fail.